What's good, YouTube? And welcome to the card that has sent the Yu-Gi-Oh community ablaze with conversations of pricing and prizing, and here's the numbers market man guy to talk about it all. Bonfire sold out at pre-sales over here at $120. Most of them sold at $90. Of course, code What's Good 5 for 5% off and to support the channel directly would make that a little cheaper, and around $70-something at tier 0. I still thought that was too much by side set standards, even though you're only seeing usually an average of 3.6 of each ultra rare per set in a case. That's a 12-box case. Well, you might get an extra to trade, you might not. It's terrible product structure, which has led to this being the straw that has broken the community's back and had a reaction like never before. You have duelists quitting paper Yu-Gi-Oh and announcing it that are actually dedicated enough to be YouTubers and also pretty big on Twitter conversations. I see them around all the time, usually adding pretty nice stuff to conversations. And then you also have a conversation on prizing and how that works within the community and how bad it can be, how good it can be, different areas, and a huge and open kind of just mind state of the community of discussing these different things. Of course, you're going to have trolls throwing stones and enjoying the situation, even hand-drawn art of this should be the altar art and getting huge reactions. I've had a lot of fun watching the conversations, but I also do feel something inside me realizing when I was a kid, when I was paid walled from cards, it motivated me to buy, sell, trade to get those cards. Not everybody's going to have that reaction. Not everybody's going to turn a hobby into a grind. You can educate yourself all you want, but pre-sales are still gambling. It's still educated guessing. You could be buying the top deck and it could go down in price. It could not perform the same as the OCG, or it could take off and do even extra. Sometimes it is obvious. $30 access code talkers. You have tons of people that just call pre-sales scams, and that's what the reactions to are here. But a lot of the time, they're actually under week 1 pricing, depending on the cards. A majority of cards will fall, but a lot of the top wanted cards end up going up. Like, actually look at the adventure token package, which is why I thought that this would be a bit cheaper, because that was accessible at $60 week 1 after spiking up day 1 from $38. I thought maximum this card's $65, right? But you can never underestimate a structure deck and impact of everybody wanting a card, along with a tier 1 to tier 0 deck. People are arguing over that placement and how it will pan out. That's player brain versus market brain to a degree on pricing, but we are in a throttled window where not everybody has theirs. The set is likely under-ordered because this style of set historically has failed, although it's a world premiere one, so it does a little better than the deck building sets, but not by too much. So let's go ahead and break down the different conversations. We need a product change, and I agree with this. He is quitting Skyhawk until we actually see meaningful product change. When they took away all foil side sets, everybody hated that. It was pretty bad, although Toon Chaos was a banger. It proved what these sets could be, and then every single one has failed to live up to those expectations. Look at Tactical Masters. Labyrinth is iconic. You have Runic, a Droll reprint, and they shorted Droll as a rare. They usually don't do short prints in these sets, at least at the top end, because it's everything short versus the old ratios. There were 20 different secret rares, and you had 24 secrets per box, meaning you'd see it all except the short prints, which would be around 3.5 per case. Now, every single ultra rares around that, although they do seem to be tweaking the ratios a little, maybe there's more ultra rares over in this new set so you can pull a little more. We'll have to wait and see EU versus USA ratios and see how all the rumors go versus the actual numbers, but that's not meaningful change. And you have Skyhawk here saying, I love Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm going to be around Yu-Gi-Oh! He is so dedicated. He has a channel. He's constantly positive in conversations on Twitter, and I like running into him on Twitter, usually in conversations. Even if I disagree, typically he's a very pleasant guy to talk about different things in Yu-Gi-Oh! So when he actually puts his foot down and says, I'm boycotting this, is what a lot of players say they should do or will do and don't do, right? Yu-Gi-Oh! Is so addicting. I'm a Yu-Gi-Oh! Player for life in one aspect or another, but I actually haven't played paper Yu-Gi-Oh! Since, I want to say, TOS, seriously. I enjoyed TOS format. It was a very expensive format, but I enjoyed it so much I jumped in. I like Sprite, but I didn't like it enough to actually buy into a Sprite deck. I've been playing Master Duel daily. I do all my dailies, and there's so many different ways to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Between Edison and getting an Edison deck and just sticking with that, and the pricing is actually better than anything but first place at the YCSs. You have those giant cards selling for $3,500 to $5,000 because they're so unique and special to Yu-Gi-Oh! Black Rose, I think, went for $6,000 maybe, and even the oversized cards going for like $1,200 on Black Rose. So when it comes down to the pricing for Edison and how it's kind of handcrafted and chosen, it's really kind of special to the game and doing so good. Yet pricing is another big discussion we're about to get to. Product does need a lot of help. Those side sets have been terrible that replace special editions, you know, like the Hidden Arsenal Chapter 1 one or the Battles of Legend coming up. Some exciting cards can be inside, but the product structure is so gosh dang awful, and it needs a lot of help. We're never going to get the dream of being OCG land product, even though we just got Rarity Collection showing we could do it. It was an amazing release. It was an amazing set. You got to actually give Konami props there for porting from the OCG and not ruining something. But that doesn't really excuse the rest of the year and hoping for a good core set now, does it? Like, please make the core set good. No, it's not going to be that all the time. Some are going to be complete total waste, like Duelist Nexus, right? MBT did chime in on this, saying, devastating. I consider myself very privileged to be able to call Skyhawk a friend. Like I said, for me, he's more of an acquaintance, and I don't know him all that well. I just really know he's been a positive influence in the community, and I like whenever I see him interacting usually. He is absolutely a joy in every context I've ever seen him, and no one pushed decks or formats to their limit like he did. That means he's really into them, he's really every nook and cranny. If we're losing people like this, we absolutely have to correct course, and I sure hope we do. Steven here had a bit of a troll. You can tell it's more trolling by this than like serious. Zero remorse for noobs, just win a YCS, but wham wham, Yu-Gi-Oh! Is so expensive, wham wham, buddy, just win a few locals and trade your pricing for cards. Now, I will say it's unlikely you're going to pull what you want out of that, and you need to get ahead with cards in order to start winning that pricing and make money back. It is an argument I will make that is fair, that if you are getting that deep into the game and need the most expensive cards to compete or finish your decks, etc., you should have the goal of trying to make some of it back through this, but I wouldn't say that you're always going to have that situation, which is exactly what Coder said. I also didn't know this was ground zero for the pricing conversation because I was replying more to Coder myself earlier, but Coder says, I am fortunate enough to have a locals near me that offers amazing pricing, and it's not amazing in my view. Over 4 rounds, if you go 3-1, you get $20 store credit, 3-0-1, 30, and 4-0, 40 credit back. I think it was like in 2004, I was getting 40 credit for first place at a 12 to 16 man local. So I don't think this is all that crazy, but I mean, if that's what's good pricing these days, I do see why it's easy for stores to get a good image by giving away solid pricing. You don't see me telling people just win locals to buy expensive cards because that's not everyone's reality. And Farfa had a similar view. One of my locals price support is an OTS and 2 packs of whatever's relatively current. I would have to win locals every week for like a year to buy one bonfire. Pricing's not it, and pricing historically is terrible within Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, you look at what people are paying versus, you know, anything but top 3 at a YCS or first in a side event, and you're having a pretty bad time, especially versus the rate of return versus what you're playing with. And other card games actually have it a lot better, which is what Rin here, and I think is one of the best conversations in the game, has been around this. I want Yu-Gi-Oh! Players to think about this when they talk about it's not so bad. In other TCGs, they complain when a staple is $20 because that is a lot compared to what they normally are. Our top level staples are 4 to 5 times more expensive than they are in other TCGs. You can actually look around and compare, and then also compare pricing, which is typically better in other TCGs to attract players. Now, I know Kazuki Takahashi didn't want cash. There's a lot of workarounds within the system of not doing cash pricing and making unique things. We've said it for a long time. Ghost Rare staples for top 8 of a regional season and end it after that season, or doing special rarity cards and, you know, doing something extra for Top Cut. They just finally gave Undefeated a oversized card of the prize card, which is still kind of cool, but still, that's just for Undefeated and Swiss. It's not actual crazy true pricing, because you can have 0 Undefeateds in a YCS Swiss. My point being is that not only is the price structure pretty bad, the pricing is, and we're in an era where people are bringing up Teledad and Dad Return as the comparisons. The 2 most expensive of all all-time formats. This is truly the third most expensive format of all time, thanks to expensive engines and expensive extra deck card that you need an SP Little Knight. Bonfire's just the card breaking the camel's back with a lot of FOMO buys. Look at all of these, by the way. Like, people are FOMO buying this. They truly are going in. But Wanted has gone up. Just get it when it's cheaper. Cheaper was still like $60 a card, right? And yeah, that's kind of a lot. And then it continues to go up and see that extra play as people prepare for the next formats. You have SP Little Knight, which almost everybody needs. It's like Frank's Hot. You put it in everything. SP Little Knight, $120 a copy at this point. I think it started around $75, $80, so yeah, $80. That was your chance to buy it at its best price, right? Age of Overlord has been a very good set as well, and it being one of the best core sets after a bunch of terrible ones, it's gonna end up kind of like people over rushing towards some of these cards and maybe under-ordered after all of the terrible experiences shops have been having with Yu-Gi-Oh! Because a lot of them actually stopped carrying Yu-Gi-Oh! Because they kept not being able to make money. We had that discussion, Ruxin had that discussion throughout the year. A lot of shops actually stopped carrying the game just at the wrong time because everything was about to change. You gotta gamble sometimes, but quit before gambling. Now, I brought this up a lot of times. Why is Lightning Storm on the screen? It doesn't matter. Right before the Crush card hit us, still a demonetizable term on YouTube, Lightning Storm was nearing $165 a copy. The price cap at events is gone. I think it's actually going to get worse before it's better with modern pricing, because you used to have vendors, they're going to still take stock home, and if they're continuing to buy and they're going to go online versus flipping cards in the room, if you sell a card for $120 online, it's near $100 on the actual back pay of the platform fees and shipping, making sure you're doing the tracked shipping to make sure you don't get got on your card, of course, on an order that big. So also bubble mailer, all that stuff. Basically, you're near $100. You're barely above to be selling it online. However, when you have that price cap gone, which needed to be gone for stuff like Starlights and other high-end cards, the cards inside the set can get a greater demand than a room. The news can spread, people were spending this at that event, or this is needed for this upcoming event, and it can become the catalyst for cards going up. Only a few cards in modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Have really gone up, like Bank Destroyer, right? When people reference cards, it's from older set structures that are way worse for Yu-Gi-Oh! Overall. Like, we're looking at Mecha Phantom Beast Draco Sack being 165, or Heraclinos. Well, it's a lot harder to get secret rares out of those sets than modern Yu-Gi-Oh! These are reaching these heights with other good cards inside the set. That's what's crazy about our current product structure. Whenever they got rid of rares, everything became harder to pull because half the set is holographic, and they upped the amount in each slot. From 8 to 10 secrets doesn't seem like a lot, but we went from a playset average of each card, not counting for short printing and only shorting a few, to everything being the old short ratio about. And the same stands true in these sets, where you have the product structure being so horrendous, and even if you tweak it a little, it's not all that much better. So I do agree, we do need meaningful change. We need people to speak up, but continue to be around the sphere and not just quit the sphere. And I think Skyhawk's actually walking that tightrope rather well. I do think when it comes down to it, speaking with your wallet's the only way to get Konami to listen, which is why some products did get retired, like special editions where they couldn't get good promos every time, and a lot of the sets sucked. Do you want a special edition of Dueling Nexus? No, of course you want one of Age of Overlord, but you don't want special editions of every set and continuing to shovel sets while they're still sitting on shelves rotting. It would have been a bad time. So Konami does listen eventually to how things work out, and to reward certain sets that are probably going to unfortunately get rewarded, it sucks to see, but it is what it is for now. Let me know your thoughts and solutions. Like I said, I have mine, but they're unrealistic. Let me know if you see any kind of change like that Konami really could be making in the next few years. I think it's going to be over a year before we do see any good change, because it takes a lot of time and approval from the OCG and that sort of stuff. And we're just in a really bad spot, not only for pricing, but for the actual product structure and how things are getting in the reprint cycles. Like, it needs to actually find some kind of better balance, and there's too many gosh dang sets.